Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. I am MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to talk about NXT Deadline from December the 7th, 2024. So, one hell of a show this ended up becoming. Once again, NXT saved us from the blandness of the main roster and of AEW. They did quite a good job here, especially at the main event. But there was no real weak match on the card, of course. There was one match that was not as good as the others, but overall, NXT really delivered. And the women's division has elevated women's wrestling and my perspective on it for quite a while now. I'm not really the biggest fan of women's wrestling, but NXT has really delivered when it comes to putting quality women in one place and getting women who are very athletic and coachable and able to do physically a lot of the moves and have a decent look or a good look. And I'm enjoying what the women can do. I don't think NXT can survive as a women-led product, as I think the dip in television ratings has shown. I think you need a strong men's division in order to keep that thing pretty high. But the women are doing extremely well. So we're going to get into the show, and then afterwards we're going to have a bit of a conversation about this quesadilla I had, because it's quite a story, and I've never had an experience like this before in my life. So we're going to talk about that. I'm not going to bore everybody with it. It's just going to be a little add-on for people who are interested in the culinary pursuits of MagMongoSlade. So we're going to start with the Iron Survivor challenges. Obafemi wins the men's Iron Survivor Challenge with 3 points. Obafemi was Luchador Sorpresa, which is the surprise luchador in this match, because Eddie Thorpe was not medically cleared, and so NXT Tatanka was whisked out of the way, and Obafemi took his spot. Very disappointing. The crowd did not seem to care about anybody in this match, despite the fact that the match was filled with very fast-paced action from guys like Javon Evans and Wesley and Nathan Fraser. I mean, they were running around in circles, doing all kinds of stuff. The crowd barely moved, and then Obafemi didn't get any reaction almost at all when he came out. I was very disappointed in this crowd. Crowd was extremely disappointing. I don't know what more you could have done. I think some of them got over, but they had weird tastes in Minnesota, I think. But back to what I was saying. Obafemi defeated Wesley, Nathan Fraser, Javon Evans, and Ethan Page with a score of 3. So I'm not going to go through the entire detail of the match. I just want to hit some of the highlights. Wesley and Ethan Page did a doomsday device on Javon Evans on the floor. He was up less than 30 seconds later, running and jumping. These things don't matter, It just jumped out at me as, these things don't matter. So the fun part of the match is once Obafemi was announced, he started coming in really dominating. I mean, he was kicking guys' asses. You would think this stuff would be super over, but it wasn't. Javon Evans was trapped inside of the pod after he got pinned, and he couldn't get out because Obafemi had pretty much flattened Ethan Page against the door. So Javon Evans climbed through the top and jumped out of it, which, if the top was open and able to be jumped out of, how are people supposed to be trapped in there? And I think the point is supposed to be that you're in the pod and you can't get out. It probably would have been more dramatic if he had to wait until Ethan Page moved until he got out, but he got and jumped out. Whatever. There was a super kick fest. Nathan Fraser, Wesley, and Javon Evans were super kicking Obafemi, and he just started no-selling them. He just started no-selling these super kicks, and then he started fighting back, which was a great spot. And then it was a big surprise because he got rolled up by Ethan Page and pinned. So this was an interesting and very fun element of the match because he snuck pinned Obafemi. Obafemi was out, had to go to the penalty box. Then Ethan Page got pinned by Javon Evans during the same time that Obafemi was in the penalty box, so he had to go in there and share the penalty box with Obafemi. And it was hilarious. Ethan Page really channeled his Jacques Rougeau here. He really channeled the Mountie. I don't know if you guys are, how many of you people are old enough to remember when the Mountie and the Big Boss Man, they did the jail match. I forget what it was actually called, where the loser had to spend the night in jail, and the Mountie lost, and he just carried on about going to jail. He was being dragged to jail, and he was, it was so comical, and it was so hilarious. Ethan Page channeled that as he had to get dragged by the referees into the pod with Obafemi. His facial expressions, his mannerisms, the fear, it was so good. It was very entertaining. And as much as I am critical of Ethan Page, I have to give him credit for this. He was very good here. And then as soon as he gets locked in the pod with Obafemi, he just gets destroyed. He got his ass beat bad. He got slammed his head against the pod a bunch of times. He got left for dead in that joint. So near the end of the match, we get Obafemi gets released from his pod. He ends up hitting a double choke slam on Nathan Frazer and Wesley. Gets a double pin. So that gives him from 1 point to 3 points because he pinned both guys. It was a little weird, and the crowd just was like, I'm like, what? That was awesome. How did you not get into that? So then Javon Evans does a springboard diamond cutter. Obafemi lands on his stomach before, Javon Evans has an opportunity to turn him around and try to pin him to try to even up the match. He loses due to the time striking out. So Obafemi was the winner. This match was fun. I enjoyed it. Usually I'm not a huge fan of the Iron Survivor concept because everybody takes a pin in the match. And sometimes you don't need to be like people like Obafemi, and later in the other match, Zarya shouldn't be eating a bunch of pins, But that's kind of the situation that we're stuck with in these Iron Survivor matches where pretty much everybody gets pinned at some point, But Obafemi wins, which was great. And I'm a huge Obafemi guy. So Obafemi winning was excellent. To me, it felt like they were going to tease somebody from the main roster, and I was really hoping it wasn't somebody from the main roster. And I was really hoping that it wasn't going to be some kind of big free agent or something like that was going to come in and squash this thing. I was glad that it was Obafemi, somebody who's already on the roster, somebody who is already established, somebody who should already be over, even though Minnesota didn't seem to care about him at all. So Obafemi versus Trick Williams, because Trick Williams won his match. We'll talk about that in a second. That's big. I like that. And I think that's a match I actually pitched way back in the Gap. I personally wanted Obafemi to challenge, to pull a Keith Lee and have both belts, at least for a short time. But they decided to have him drop the belt to Tony D'Angelo first. All right. So I like this. That's black excellence, as they say. So I was a big fan of that. Later on in the show, Javon Evans and Wesley got into a fight because Wesley did not like that Javon Evans was so excited about being in the Iron Survivor Challenge. He did not like that Wesley was not upset about losing the Iron Survivor Challenge. He feels that in a few years, Javon Evans will feel how he feels about constantly having opportunities lost and slipped through your fingers. Javon Evans was like, no, never that, and got punched in his face, which is, you hit a man in his face, you're dead serious. So there was that. Okay. Next was Lexus King cutting a promo out in the cold. Now I mention this because it actually makes sense. Lexus King says he wasn't booked for the show, but he came to Minnesota anyway because this place has left a pit in his heart. And the name was never used, but Minnesota is where Brian Pillman died. His father died in Minnesota in a hotel room, had a heart attack. So this promo makes perfect sense. And he's talking about how he's out to prove that he's different, that he's not chasing ghosts, and that this is a fight worth fighting. So he's going to be out there in the cold to face this this environment that stole his father from him and left him growing up alone. And I thought this was a really good promo. I thought this was great. Now, for a lot of people, because they never used his dad's name, it might slip through their fingers, but for somebody like me, who of course knew this, as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, Brian Pillman died in a hotel room in Minnesota. Yeah, that sucks. So him going to Minnesota just to be there, takes on a very special meaning. And this is the kind of stuff I think you need to do as a character, the mixing of kayfabe and reality. Like, the whole concept of Lexus King is that he changed his name because he did not want to be Brian Pillman. And he's still on that same track. But he can't deny who his father actually is, or the impact that working in WWE or being in a place like Minnesota actually has on him. So even though the character is seeking to run from his father, it keeps following him. And he has to wrestle with that. He got to deal with that. And even though its character is kayfabe, there is some reality to it. Now, there's nobody he's going to actually be able to beat in this feud against, him losing his dad. But it's good character development. And it's good for people who care about his story going forward to see him wrestle with things like losing his father and trying not to be like his dad. So that was good. Now, the second match on the show, Jada Parker versus Lola Vice in the Underground match. I think this was good. I enjoyed this. Clearly, I like both girls. I like Jada Parker and Lola Vice. Jada Parker is really good at bumping and feeding. And what I mean by that is go watch the spot where after Jada Parker tied the black belt around Lola Vice's arm and had jammed her into the ring post and all this stuff. Lola Vice gets the belt and she's doing clotheslines with the belt. And Jada Parker is bumping off the mat and then jumping back up. That's called bumping and feeding. Because you're bumping for the move and then you're feeding for another move. So she does that better than a lot of people I've seen on the main roster. And this is not a technique that's used everywhere, by the way. Some people have never actually heard of it. It's typically a WWE thing. But she does a very good job of it. Because it's a skill, In terms of Lola Vice, I think she did really good too. She did a great job selling. She did a great job making Jada Parker look legitimate. I will say this too. Jada Parker did a better job throwing punches than Seth Rollins, CM Punk, 99% of the AEW roster, and anybody else. When you see Jada Parker throw a punch, it looks like she's really trying to punch Lola Vice. I mean, she's a woman and a soccer player, so it's not like she's Clarissa Shields or anything like that, throwing some kind of well-trained boxing punch. But my God, she actually looked like she's trying to throw a punch, especially her body punches. Her body punches look solid. So, and they also factored in the brick. Now, I was not a big fan of the brick. For people who have been following this channel for a while, I thought the brick spot on NXT TV was one of the dumbest things that they've done on television for a while. I hate when people use worked bricks, but you should only use worked bricks. You don't use a shoot brick, right? But it just looks cartoonish when these bricks just either bounce or crumble in your hands like, wet crackers. It's awful. In any event, they tried to show that Jada Parker needed to rely on the brick, but she wasn't able to get it. So Lola Vice hits her spinning back fist, and it looks like Jada Parker was knocked out, but she continues to move. And then Lola Vice snatches in a sort of triangle choke, what they call an anaconda choke. And she kind of does a gator roll and chokes out Jada Parker. Great finish. I think it was a very sensible finish. Jada Parker did not get knocked out, and she didn't tap out, so she got choked out. So that was fun. Lola Vice remains undefeated in these underground matches. Jada Parker's stock continues to improve. The only thing I don't like is when they do these choke out finishes and then people are up walking around 20 seconds later. I hate it. I don't care if it happens in UFC as well. Like, oh, sometimes people get choked out in the UFC. They're up in 10 seconds later. I don't care. This is pro wrestling. Everything is supposed to be dramatic. If she choked her out, at least add some weight to it. Have medical and all those people run into the ring and try to help her because she got choked out. And smelling salts, the whole 9 yards. That's what I want. Don't show me Jada Parker sitting on the floor, upset about losing. No, she put on such a good performance that she deserves to get just a little bit of sympathy. She was out of her element anyway. This is Lola Vice types match. So what you want to do is you want to have the medical staff come in, smelling salts and, check her breath, check her neck and all that kind of stuff. And then you could show Lola Vice dancing all over her and everything, which is what Lola Vice does. And she does that stuff all the time. So that's about my only critique. Otherwise, I think this match was mostly good. All right, the match of the night, without question, Tavion Heights and Miles Bourne versus Axiom and Nathan Fraser. So Nathan Fraser, of course, this is his second match tonight. He was in the Iron Survivor match where he got his nose busted. And he's coming into this match with tape on his nose and tape around his ribs. And Axiom is frustrated and he says, look, I'll carry it. I'll do most of the work. You just be there. And let me say, I am extremely impressed by all four of these guys. This was a phenomenal match. Tavion Heights is next level. He's tremendous. Miles Bourne, very impressive. Axiom and Nathan Fraser, they struck gold with these guys. These guys are legitimately one of the best tag teams in recent WWE history. They remind me very much of London and Kendrick, where all of their matches are very fast-paced because they're both smaller guys. But because the work rate is so high and the storyline level is so low, I fear that in 5 or 10 years, they are going to be like London and Kendrick, where nobody's going to remember or care that they were tag team champions for such a long time. But this match was phenomenal, and Tavion Heights specifically was quite goddamn good in this match. Miles Bourne, the deaf guy, he kept getting RKO chants. And I didn't really understand why until I think I looked online, and it says that people think he looks like Randy Orton. And he does kind of look like Randy Orton a little bit, I guess. So people kept chanting RKO at him, which was very weird. So there's a whole lot of big moves. I can't go through the entire thing here. But there was a Tavion Heights and Miles Bourne hit a powerbomb / dropkick move. I thought that was okay. I thought it was going to be the finish, but I was actually glad it wasn't, considering it was kind of weak. I don't know how it didn't really work for me, but they had another move that was like a Death Valley driver into a DDT, which I was sure was the finish. And when they kicked out of that, I was like, okay, we're entering bulletproof midget territory where you can drop an anvil on Axiom and he's going to kick out. You can, run Nathan Fraser over with a tank and he's going to continue to get up. And I'm not a huge fan of that kind of booking, especially when Tavion Heights is so much bigger than these guys. And he's constantly gut-rich power bombing them and throwing them all over the place and power slamming them to oblivion. And you're like, yeah, man, this guy came into the match injured. Just easy pickings. Somebody the size of Tavion Heights with his pedigree should be able to just finish off Nathan Fraser with ease. But it was still sort of believable that they lost because Miles Bourne got caught in a small package. And Axiom wins for his team, so Nathan Fraser didn't even factor into the finish. But the match had some good time on it. Maybe a little long, but it was a pay-per-view match, so I guess that, and it was only 5 matches on the show, so I guess that could be excused. And I think this was the best match on the show. Generally, I think this was really good. Match 4. Trick Williams defeats Ridge Holland. I have to say, this match was kind of average. Clearly, neither one of these guys are ring generals. Ridge Holland looks like a professional wrestler. Trick Williams looks like a professional wrestler, but neither one of them have a tremendous amount of experience. Ridge Holland has the most experience of the two, as he debuted in WWE, I think in 2018, maybe 2019, right before the pandemic. So he's been around for a while. Of course, he's most known for breaking Big E's neck, which is why everybody hates him so much. But I think this match was much better than anybody is willing to give it credit for. I think this match was better than people expected it to be. But it's not the match that's going to put either one of them on the map, nor is it the match that's going to change anybody's opinion of either one of them. Ridge Holland had a kind of a scary powerbomb spot in this match where it seemed like he struggled to get Trick Williams up. He eventually did get him up and land him flat, but there was a bit of ugliness there for a second. There was a backdrop off the announce desk by Trick Williams as Ridge Holland was trying to like power drive him or something on the desk. It was kind of an ugly spot, and I think Ridge Holland fell on his hip. You know, him being almost 40, that's probably not a good idea. They did the rope spot that Foley does, where Trick Williams dived and missed the attack on Ridge Holland and ended up getting twirled up in the ropes, his head twirled up in the ropes. The old Bret Hart Mick Foley spot. It was great, and it continued, I should say, the story of Ridge Holland's injuring Trick Williams' neck. And it seemed like it was going to be the precursor to Trick Williams losing. Ridge Holland ends up hitting his finish, the Redeemer DDT package thing, and Trick Williams just kicked out of it. And when it didn't get much of a reaction for Trick Williams kicking out, I was like, ooh, not good. Not good. Because that means nobody believed it. Nobody bought it. Trick Williams is indeed over. Well, his theme song is over, and the chants stuff are over. But the match itself, I think it struggled to get the crowd reaction. But okay, Ridge Holland's finished, the one that killed Chase University. It got kicked out of. And then we get Trick Williams hitting the trick kick, which is kind of like a spinning boot. And then follow that up with the trick shot knee, and Ridge Holland went down clean. Respectable win here for Trick Williams. I guess it had to happen. I was one of the people who kind of believed that killing Chase University was all about building Ridge Holland as being the preeminent villain of NXT. And as the preeminent villain of NXT, he would probably win the title, to maintain that momentum. But it seems that they had a different view, that all of this was to build up Ridge Holland to be a credible contender so that he can be slayed by Trick Williams. It's a sensible booking philosophy. Unfortunately, I think Chase University was so beloved and was so popular that you could have gotten more out of it. And I think having Ridge Holland destroy Chase University only to lose the title match clean is it does a disservice to the angle that you did to get him here. I mean, if he was going to lose, you could have just did it on TV or something like that. You could have did it without destroying Chase University. I think if you were going to destroy Chase University, and I'm talking about this because it was a big moment, as Chase University had been around for 2 or 3 years. And, when you end a 2 or 3 year angle to lift one person, well, that one person should get as much out of the push as possible. Similar to when Brock Lesnar squashed John Cena, you have to get as much out of that thing as possible. Same thing here. You went through all the trouble of building that fat cow, that fat pig, and then you throw away most of the meat. I don't know. I'm not really believing in that. Don't really care about that. I don't like that, but they did it. So I don't know what you do with Ridge Holland now, except maybe send him back to the main roster. So Tiffany Stratton showed up, and she teased casting in the Money in the Bank on the NXT champion, which seems ludicrous and like a huge step down for her, because she's on SmackDown. She's in a tournament to win the United States Championship. She should be focused on that. And I get it. You want to help push the NXT women's title as being important. But this is like when Edge won the Royal Rumble and went down to talk about maybe the NXT championship. It interests me. It excites me. No, it doesn't really. It's just certain things you gotta do. Like when Undertaker teased wrestling Lashley. It's something you gotta do. So this main event of the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge. It took us forever to get here. Now I'm going to complain about something that a lot of other people have complained about. And I've tried I haven't been that quiet about it, but I'm going to make a big deal about it now. The pacing of these shows, especially since Triple H took over, has been absolutely horrendous. It takes so long to get the next match in the ring. It's an egregious amount of time. For this Women's Iron Survivor match, they showed us a video package of the rules, and then Mike Rome told us the rules again. Okay, wait a second. You showed us a video package. Mike Rome told us the rules for the first match. It's the same kind of match. Why would you tell us the rules again? You don't have to tell us the rules to the match twice. We're watching the show. And even if somebody's, was turned to match on it, let's say they turned the match on. Have Joseph tell us what the rules are. Because we've already done the introductions. We've already gone through the rules. If somebody is joining us late, they got to play catch up. Tell us the rules of the match one time. Just once. That's all we need. And then you have it be supplemented by the commentary. The commentary then starts telling us what the rules are or reminding us of what the rules are. I get that this is what some people complain about when they say WWE holds the fans' hands, which I have always said every match is somebody's first match, maybe. And it's completely clear that somebody might be watching this for the first time and just decided to punch this into Peacock and be like, what's going on? Let the commentators, because I'm assuming they have ears, let the commentators explain it. Because if you already told us what the rules are, it's the exact same rules as the previous time this match happened. And it happened the same night. You don't need to tell us the same rules all over again. It slows the pace of the show down way too much. In addition to that, the video packages. They showed us a video package of Gunther that was like 4 minutes long for his match at Saturday Night's Main Event. Why are we showing that here? It doesn't even really promote the show. It only promotes Gunther. Enough. These shows these are 5-match shows. And this show was pretty simple. It was 3 hours from 7 to 10. Not too bad. But you could have got us out of there in 2 1/4. You could have got us out of there sooner if you hadn't pummeled us with commercials and then dragged ass on telling us what the rules of everything are. Come on, man. You don't have to do that. So the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge was won by Julia, who defeated Ren Sinclair, Sol Ruka, Zarya, and Stephanie Vacker. One hell of a performance for all of these girls. It was extremely good. The opening was Ren Sinclair and Julia, and they went back to the basics. They even did a test of strength. They were dragging ass on this test of strength. I got to tell you, I could tell people were very upset. Now, this match was over. People loved Ren Sinclair. She was more over than everybody else in this match. Believe it or not. Maybe she's from there. I don't know. But people loved them some Ren Sinclair. And they were chanting for her the whole night. When it seemed like she was going to finish the match with no points, people were very upset. They were very mad. So they loved them some Ren Sinclair. And she showed out here. She did pretty good. She did a cattle mutilation and actually did Charlie Dempsey's variation of it. So it was pretty good. So there were so many spots in this match that were amazing. A lot of them featured Sol Ruca. But the double Soul Snatcher to Julia and Zarya at the same time, and then she got no pin because both of them rolled out of the ring, was a great spot. Truly tremendous booking there. Inspired booking that she's going to hit her move, but no, nobody's going to get pinned. So, Ren Sinclair comes out of the penalty box. She had just already gotten pinned by Zarya. So she comes out of the penalty box, immediately gets hit with a Soul Snatcher and put back into the penalty box. So now people are very upset because she's been out of the match for almost 3 minutes straight at this point. Sol Ruca and Julia then powerbomb Zarya through a desk, through the announce desk. That was basically to write her out of the match for a while. She was the base, the powerhouse in the match. Sol Ruca hit a very beautiful, clean Sasuke special, which, Will Ospreay does it, Ricochet does it, but I've never seen her do it until now, and it was quite well done. Zarya ended up pinning Julia with the F5. That was the only time Julia got pinned, if I remember correctly. Then Julia and Stephanie Vacker, they did the showdown, where they teased the two of them wrestling each other, and I heard they didn't have good chemistry. I heard, because I didn't watch it, that they actually wrestled in Japan and the match wasn't very good. And then I was kind of like, yeah, maybe that's just, AEW fans hating because they both signed with WWE. And then they touched each other in this match. And I know why I said touched each other. People got very excited. Get your mind out of the gutter. But they were terrible together. They couldn't tell whether they were coming or going together. And I didn't get it. I don't understand how they could be so good with Ren Sinclair or Sol Ruca or literally anybody else. But the moment they come together, things look like it's about to fall apart. They both look like rookies. It was very weird. But that was the worst part of the match. Ren Sinclair finally got a fall after she got out of the penalty box, or they call it the renalty box, because she was in there so much. At 24 minutes and 30 seconds. So everybody at this point had 1 point. And Julia then hits Zarya with her big knee strike. She pins Zarya, and Sol Ruca had already been pinned as well. So both of them were in the penalty box. Sol Ruca finished the match in the penalty box, and Zarya finished the match on her way to the penalty box. Meanwhile, Stephanie Vacker kept trying to pin Julia to get that second point, only for the count to strike 25, and the match ends. Julia is the winner. And they told a decent story with Stephanie Vacker wrestling to the very end. She tried to roll up. When that didn't work, she tried to Hamahu cradle. And then before the referee even counted, the clock struck 25. So Julia survives. She is the winner. Excellent choice. Like I said before, Shawn Michaels' booking is typically challenge the champion, lose, and work your way back. And that's what he's doing with Julia. Julia lost on the first episode of NXT on CW. Now she's going to be back to wrestle Roxanne Perez, and she's likely going to win the belt this time. And it's the right decision. Putting the belt on her immediately is kind of a Triple H thing to do. But Shawn is like, no, you're going to have to work for things here in NXT. So Julia wins. She's absolutely the right person to win. But everybody walked away, and I think everybody was impressive here. Zarya really got her shit in with her power moves and, laying her stuff in. Ren Sinclair, she did great character stuff. And even if it was comedic, she was the Ethan Page of this match, where, it was all about her being the underdog. And I think that's part of the reason why she was so over, is because she was the underdog here. Stephanie Vacker looked like the toughest opponent. She never got pinned. She was the only person in the match that didn't get pinned. Sol Ruca was absolutely amazing. She was spectacular in terms of athleticism. We were still waiting for her to really get that personality together, but she was tremendous. But Julia was the right person to win. She's the most charismatic. She's probably the biggest star. She wasn't the most over person in the match. She was probably the third most over in the match, after Stephanie and Ren, but she did a really good job. She was tremendous. So this main event was quite good. I think the two women's matches were very good, probably on par with each other. And I really loved the tag team championship match. All in all, I give NXT Deadline a big old thumbs up. The only thing people might not like that much about this show is the Trick Williams versus Ridge Holland match. And that's only because I think a lot of people are going to be biased against those guys going in. And I think they had a pretty much average match. It wasn't bad. Nobody looked bad, but nobody looked spectacular either. So I think the show was pretty good. So now, before we wrap up, I want to talk about this quesadilla. Now, usually I usually make things for the pay-per-view events when, out of excitement, I need to do something with my nervous energy, right? But this time I decided to go buy something. So I went and got a quesadilla. Now, you may say, Mongo, where did you get this quesadilla? It sounds pretty good. I was like, oh yeah, chicken and onions and green peppers. Oh yeah, it sounds pretty good. And I got it out of a gas station, believe it or not. Now you may say, Mongo, that's strike one. Strike one, Mongo. You went to a gas station to get a quesadilla. And I said, well, look, man, I live in Detroit. It is what it is. Now you may say, Mongo, what sort of human being, what race or ethnicity was the person who made this quesadilla? And I would have to admit, it was an Arab. An Arab guy made the quesadilla. Not a Mexican. No Mexicans. No Mexicans in this neighborhood at all. I live far away from Southwest. There were no Mexicans. So, there was no... What was the problem with the quesadilla, Mongo? I'll say, well, how about this? There was no queso in the quesadilla. What is queso? It's cheese. There was no cheese in the quesadilla. He didn't give me a little giblet of sour cream that usually comes with the quesadilla. He didn't give me that either. So, and then the chicken, he used shawarma chicken. So he used shawarma chicken that was marinated in whatever they marinate their shawarmas in to make the quesadilla. Didn't really cook the tortilla. And there was no cheese. So, all in all, though, I will say it was still not bad. All right, it wasn't like it was the worst thing I've ever had. It was good. I had to spice it up a little bit. When I got home, I had to make a little rice to go with it, a little salad, just to make it more of what it was supposed to be. I seasoned the meat a little bit better. You said, Mongo, why didn't you just get a shawarma from the Arab guy? Because I'm not a racist, bro. There was nothing in my body that told me that an Arab can't make a quesadilla. I was just like, well, shit, the motherfucker sells quesadillas. He might know how to make one. Well, apparently not. Apparently not. Gas station quesadilla, not justified. It was $9. And it had no cheese in it. Queso is in the name. There was no queso in the quesadilla. It was the dumbest fucking thing I had ever come across in these here United States. But here's the thing. When you live in a town that is as diverse but segregated as Detroit, you have weird stuff like this. I've gone to restaurants that had no Arabs in there and had great shawarmas. That guy, I did not get a shawarma from him because his shawarma sucks. It tastes dry, and you can't really have any flavor in the chicken, which was odd that when he made the quesadilla, that was the best that chicken had ever tasted. Now, there was another mistake that occurred at the same time that I kind of left out. And it goes back to the very beginning of this thing, because it had gotten too late to cook. Like, I'm not about to cook and watch this show at the same time. Just forget it. So, what I decided to do, I was going to go get a pizza. So I was like, I haven't had pizza in a while. I'm going to go get a pizza. So I goes to the gas station. They sell pizzas in the gas station. They sell pizza, hamburgers, chicken strips, all that stuff. It's kind of like a Coney Island gas station, you know? So I go in there and I'm going to order a pizza. Just a cheese pizza because I don't want to make it too complicated for him. He ain't Italian either, right? So I'm like, all right, go in there. I don't see that the pizza oven is on. I don't see pizza anywhere. I know he sells pizza because I've been in there before. But this particular day, there was no pizza. So I go up there and I was like, okay, quesadilla. All right, make me a quesadilla. It's the closest thing to pizza you got. So he rings it up, and then he walks away to go to make the quesadilla. I'm like, okay. I try to tap the damn thing. It didn't work. It sent me back. So I'm knocking on the window like, hey, bro, I can't pay for this thing. We'll have to come back. He comes back. I look. There's pizza. I'm like, bro, give me pizza. That's what I want. I want pizza. He punches the stuff in. I pay for it without looking. This motherfucker charged me for the pizza and the quesadilla. So now I got pizza sitting here cold because I'm not eating it. I'll eat it tomorrow. I got pizza and quesadilla that I did not ask for. I wanted pizza. But then he remembered quesadilla, so he just punched them both together. So, and my dumb ass didn't even notice it until I got the receipt. And I didn't get the receipt until he fucking put the damn shit together already. And so now I got a whole pizza sitting here cold. And I had a quesadilla with no queso. I need to stop being cheap going to the gas station, you know what I'm saying? But it was what it was, man. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. It didn't make my stomach hurt. I didn't throw it up. I didn't get like bird flu or anything like that from it, so I counted it as a win. I just know his shawarmas are off, quesadillas are off. I see nigglets in there all the time, eating chicken wings and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to be a part of the group. I just wanted to be like the rest of my people. But quesadilla, he has not mastered it, and he has not mastered shawarma. I'm going to try the pizza tomorrow. All right. I will let people know how the pizza turned out because I haven't had pizza from him yet either. And it's not a classic Detroit pizza. It's just a simple cheese pizza. And I keep it simple because too many, and usually when you go, like I like shopping with Arabs because they don't eat pork. And so like if you order a pepperoni, it's usually beef pepperoni. Like everybody else is kind of like wishy-washy about that kind of thing. But I keep it simple because I like to get in and get out. So I'll be like, just give me a cheese pizza. Whatever. So cheese pizza is probably not that bad. It's hard to fuck that up. But we'll see if he manages to fuck it up. I've already checked there is cheese on it. So cheese pizza has cheese on it. Quesadilla is supposed to have cheese on it. But it's not. And he didn't give me like cheese to dip it in or nothing. Just nothing. Embarrassing. Almost humiliating. But the night was made better because I got a little bit of a brownie that went with it. So I had a snack, which I usually don't eat donuts and brownies and shit like that. Today's a special occasion. And it lifted my spirits. So the pay-per-view worked out. The dinner was probably 6 out of 10. But usually a good quesadilla is a solid 12 out of 10. And I hadn't had a quesadilla in so long. That's why I'm so disappointed. Because I hadn't had one in so long. The last time I had a quesadilla, I was about ready to kiss the chef in the mouth. You know what I'm saying? It was almost like that, what was that scene in, what was it? Not Desperado, but Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Where I think, was it like Brad Pitt or somebody like that? They ate something so delicious they wouldn't kill the chef. That's kind of how so good. That's how good this quesadilla at this one spot. They actually specify Mexican food, so that makes sense. But it's on my side of town too, so that was a little bit easier. that's what I had in my mind when I ordered it. I was like, oh, it's probably gonna be just as good. Nope. Spent a few more minutes grilling the quesadilla. He cooked it. It was brown. It wasn't like he took it right out of the package and threw the shit together. So it was a cooked tortilla. But it wasn't crispy, But maybe it was also that it took me so long to get home that maybe I kind of ruined it. So can't blame everything on the guy. But there certainly wasn't no cheese on that motherfucker, I can tell you that much. And I wouldn't turn around and go back and take it back either. So, fuck it. And I didn't have any cheese to put on it, so I had to tough through it. It was okay. We'll see how the pizza goes tomorrow. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Hopefully your dinner was better than mine. Peace out. Chief.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort so question.